Hello YouTube, I am back. It's not my. This is my new apartment. That's why I haven't been making any videos in a while. But let me just get straight to the point. I'll be doing a video on the defense of the resurrection of Jesus Christ. So let's get right to it. There are four facts that New Testament scholars all agree with that are historical, reliable in the New Testament about the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Fact number one. Jesus was laid in the tomb by a Jewish Sanhedrin called Joseph of Arimathea. Jesus' burial is attested in multiple independent sources. The burial account is part of Mark's Passion story, and this is a very early source, probably dated within a few years of the crucifixion. Moreover, Paul, to his letter to the Corinthians, cites an extremely early source for the Jesus' burial, which most scholars date within a few years or even months within the crucifixion. Independent testimony for Jesus' burial by Joseph is also found in special sources behind Matthew, Luke, and John. Historians are lucky if they get two independent sources for the same event, but here we have 5 independent sources for the same event, some of which date really early. As a member of the Jewish Sanhedrin who condemned Jesus, Joseph of Arimathea is unlikely to be a Jewish invention. In the early church, there was a hostility towards Jewish people, since they were the ones that carried out the execution of our Lord Jesus Christ. So it is highly unlikely that Christian writers will invent Joseph of Arimathea, a Jew, doing something right for Jesus. Most New Testament scholars concur that it is highly likely that Jesus was buried by Joseph of Arimathea. Fact number 2. The historical reliability of the burial account supports the empty tomb. This is fact number 2. Jesus was laid in the tomb by, the tomb was found empty by a group of women followers, The burial account supports the empty tomb. If the burial account is accurate, then it is known in Jerusalem where the tomb is, both Jew and Christian alike. It is a short inference to his historicity of the empty tomb, so long as a corpse laid in Joseph's tomb, a Christian movement would have never taken place, since it is based on the resurrection. Let me explain this. The Christians claim that Jesus rose from the dead. But if everyone in Jerusalem knows where Jesus' tomb is and they found a corpse in it, no one will believe the Christians. But since it was empty, it supports that the empty tomb as a historical event. Let me continue. It is also multiply attested in independent sources and very early sources. Mark's Passion source didn't end in Jesus' burial, but with the story of the empty tomb, which is tied to the burial account, very verbally and grammatically. Moreover, Matthew and John rely on independent sources of the empty tomb. Jesus' empty tomb is also mentioned in the early sources, independent preserved of the Acts of the Apostles, and implied in the very old tradition handed down by Paul in his first letter to the Corinthian church. We have multiple attestation of the facts of the empty tomb in 4 independent sources. The tomb was found empty by women. This is the most surprising thing. In patriarchal societies, the testimony of women was not accounted for, but it's remarkable that it was women who found the tomb. If it was a later invention of the church, they would have somebody else find the tomb, like men, such as Matthew and Luke. But since women found the tomb, it is highly likely that this is a historical event and that it actually happened. The empty tomb story is simple and lacks theological embellishment. Mark's story is uncolored by theological and apologetical motifs that would have been characteristic of the Christian creation. For example, it is remarkable that the resurrection of Jesus is not described at all. As in the 4 Gospels, where Jesus rises with glory to many witnesses. 100 witnesses, In Mark's account, there is no prophesying or citing of glorious titles. If it were a creation, it would have at least wanted to make it colorful, but it remains simple. Mark's story is primitive tradition, free from theological and apologetical embellishment. Also, the early Jewish polemic implies the empty tomb. After Jesus' death and resurrection, the apostles claimed that he rose from the dead, and the Jews responded with a rebuttal as if the disciples stole the body. But think about this. If the Jews tell the people that Jesus' body was stolen by his disciples, that must imply that there's a tomb that's empty. And that the very Jews know about this and refuted it by saying that the disciples stole the body. So, thus, the early adversaries of the Christian church also supported the empty tomb story. So, this is all I'll say for this video. Until the next one.